Hello, my name is Xander. Welcome to the ORM Mastery course, Level 1 for Beginners. This tutorial is part of the YouTube edition playlist, Django Database ORM Mastery. You can find a link to this playlist in the video description, where you'll find all the tutorials associated to this course. In this tutorial, we learn how to insert data into a single table with a many-to-many relationship. If you would like to follow along step by step, you can download our base Django project, Code Base 1. There is a link in the video description to that code. Now, if you are not familiar with Django and how to start a new Django project, there is also a video guide on how to download and start the project. Again, there is a link in the video description to that. If you like this course and would like to learn more, then do consider our course on Udemy, Django Database ORM Mastery Level 1. The actual thumbnail might change over time, but just look for Created by Very Academy. There is a link in the video description to the course. That is always going to give you the best price for the course. Now for this, we can utilize the product and category table, because currently we do have a many-to-many relationship between these two tables. Now, it's not the only many-to-many relationship we have here. We have a product attribute values table here and a product type attribute. And we can see we have many-to-many relationships between these tables. Now, the difference being here is that we've manually created these models, whereas here we've allowed Django to automatically, I don't know what's happened there. We've allowed Django to automatically create the many-to-many table between the product and category table. So let's first of all just take a look at this table that's automatically generated. So let's just go into the models first, and we'll take a look at it's the product table just to show you that. So in the product table here, we have a field called category, and then inside of here we have a many-to-many field. Now, I did allude to this in the previous tutorial. When we do have a many-to-many field, this field isn't actually created in the table. So let's take a look at that. So this is the product table. Now, we've already migrated this, of course, so we're going to use the SQLite Explorer extension here to have a look at the product table. So let's go inside of here, and we can see that by adding some data, we've got the fields, and you can see we don't actually have a category table. And we can see that also from looking at the fields here. Of course, we saw that in the previous tutorial where we started to insert data into the table. We noticed that there isn't actually a field for the many-to-many table. It's just a reference to the category table. So Django creates a separate table, and it looks a little bit like this. So inventory, and that's the name of the app. And then it takes the name of the product model and the name of the category model, so the many-to-many relationship class names, and converts that into what you see here. So inventory, the app name, and then product, the first table, and then category, the second table. And what you can see here is that there are simply just two fields, one for a product ID reference and one for a category ID reference. So here we're just generating connections between the products and the categories. So because there isn't an actual field here in the products table, unlike the foreign key connections relationships, we don't actually need to specify anything in the product to notify the category table or to specify the fact that this product is connected to a category. So that's all done in the link table. So the table that we saw here that Django automatically generates. Okay, so here it is. This is the link table that Django creates. It's called inventory product category. It has a product ID and a category ID. And what we have then is a setup whereby we essentially are referring from the product table to the category table, and behind the scenes, a new table is created, and we can utilize this reference here in the product table to actually then query across this table and then determine, for example, what products are associated to what categories. And we can do it on the reverse too. So remember, this is a relational database. So essentially, I guess we could say that this is a reference which allows us to determine the relationship between a product and a category through the inventory product category linked table. So apologies if I've embellished too much there, or apologies if I've not said enough. The only way to find out is by leaving a comment. So if there is anything that maybe you need for me to clarify, or whether I need to make a new tutorial on some specific elements, please let me know. Of course, there's always a lot of inferring here on this course. I can't tell you everything, but I try and build it up nicely to try and paint a picture for you to maybe do some more exploration on different aspects, or else, like I said, just let me know and we can explore expanding the course to provide more underpinning knowledge if needed. Okay, so back to the task in hand. We're going to add some data into the product table and the category table. By doing so, we know that the foreign keys will then be able to be connected to the objects inside of each table, and therefore building a connection between a product and a category. Now remember, these are all going to be foreign keys, so they are going to be required. And in addition to that, we are going to, like I said, need to have respective. We are going to need to have objects already inserted into these two tables to populate this table. So let's get going. So first of all, let's go into the shell. Remember that if you want to start and follow along, you can do. If you need the guide, it's at the start of this section of the course. First up then, let's just bring in the code we had utilized previously. So we're going to import all of the tables. Most of these we don't need. We're just going to clear the tables if there is any data, if you are following along step by step. So we'll just paste that in, delete any data. You can see there were some data in the database, so that just clears everything out to begin with. Right, so with that done, now obviously you don't need to do that if you've started from fresh. Also, just another reminder that the code here is in a file, a markdown file. You'll find that in the download associated to this tutorial. So hopefully you feel comfortable now adding data to the database. So I'll just bring in the code. So we're going to need to bring in the code here for, let's just get rid of this, for saving information in the product table. So web ID slug name. So let's just rename this to example 1 here. There we go. So let's just go ahead and save that into the product table. There we go. And we can do the same thing again for the category table. Again, it doesn't matter if we use save or if you use the create approach. I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit here. So we've got a new category here. Okay, so bring that in. So we now have data. We should have data now in our table. So let's go for a category, flip-flops, blah, blah, blah. That's all in. And then the product. Okay, so it's good to go. So we need to remember that's ID 2 in the product, and then in the category here, that is ID 1. So we need to remember that potentially. Okay, so now we can focus in on building the many-to-many connection. So the scenario here then is, let's just pretend that we've already have a category. It already exists in the database. And what we want to do is we want to add a new product now, and then associate it at the same time to the category. So this is a kind of two-step process here, in that we need to first of all add the product, and then we need to add the relationship to the category. So we'll go ahead and we'll just add a new product again. Obviously one already exists, so we'll just extend this slightly. Okay, so this is the first step down. We're going to add an item to the database, a new product item, and then we're going to need to associate that to a category. Okay, so we go ahead and we have this variable x here, so we're going to store this in x. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so at the moment, remember, that hasn't actually inserted anything into the database. Remember, so there's product, sorry. So that hasn't been executed yet. Remember, these are lazy. So until we actually call this variable, it's not going to be inserted into the database. So with that in mind, we can then take this and then we can then go ahead and, for example, we can go ahead and save it. So let's just go ahead and save. Okay, so now it is inside of our database. We're good to go. Now we need to associate it to a category, right? So we know that category 1 has been added. So what we can do here, we can take X and we can refer to category. Now, what is that a reference to, category here? Well, if we look in our model, the field, if you remember, that isn't actually created is called category. So it's a reference to this point here. So this is an instruction to say, okay, now we want to build this many-to-many connection. So we're going to refer to this, and essentially Django now knows that this is a many-to-many field. It's then going to perform the correct operation. So we utilize .add here. So we're saying that we want to add a new entry for this product and connect it to a category. And then we just need to specify which category to connect it to. To loosely describe what's happening here, we created a new object, a new instance in our database that was stored in X. So that was a new product. And then we saved that. So we can now access that data through X. And then we specified the category field in the products table, which is a many-to-many field. And then we've utilized, or in actual fact, that's incorrect. We've utilized the add method here. So this add method, we can specify the model objects to the related object set. So we need to specify in here the objects to relate to our initial product in this case. And that was Y, because in Y, if you remember, we created a new object, a category object, and we saved it in the Y, and then we saved that. So that's then accessible in Y. So that's how we're then able to kind of build that connection, or to tell Django what connectivity, what relation we want to make, and to add an entry in our product category table. So there's many ways for us to set this up. So let's just go ahead and try this again. So the key here is that we're going to need 2 instances. So let's, for example, say X equals product dot objects dot get. Let's get ID equals say 3. So let's just double check our products, see what IDs we actually have. So 3. So we're going to associate, let's go for this product here to a new category. Right, so ID 4. So that's our product instance, X. And then we get our category instance, which is Y. So let's just remove that for now. So let's go ahead and load this up. So we grab those 2 objects from the database, and then we can utilize that then to build our connection. So what we should have now then in our, if we look down in our product category table, our link table, we've now got 2 instances. So that was product ID 4 connected to category ID 1. This is obviously important to know how to actually manage this within your application, because obviously your data is coming from different sources. So you need to prepare that data before you then perform the task of then building the connection, the relationship, and adding that to the product category table. So you saw previously, what we can also do, for example, is we could potentially select the category. So category.objects.get. Let's go for ID equals 1 in here. So let's just go ahead and build a new product here very quickly. So we go ahead and save that. So we've got a new product there. And let's go ahead now and associate that to, it's stored in X. So let's associate that to category ID 1. There we go. So if we go back into our table again, we now have a new entry, which is, of course, our new product with product ID 5, and then that's associated to category ID 1. So of course, we don't need to just associate it to one category. Of course, we have a many-to-many relationship. So the whole point here really is that there is a connection, a many-to-many connection. So for one product, there are many categories that it might be connected to. So let's take a look at how we could manage that. Well, first of all, let's build a separate category. So we'll just grab this code here, and we'll build a new category. So we'll just call this flip-flops 2. Yeah, I think that should do. So we'll just paste that in. So that's just going to build a new category. So we should have 2 categories now. Okay, so let's go ahead and just build a new product instance. Oh, no, that's not going to work. Apologies. So web ID, maybe that already exists. Let's try that again. So just go ahead and build a new product. Okay, so we've got a new product and that's now stored in X. So let's associate the new product to all of the categories that we have now in the categories table. So let's just go ahead, for example, and return, apologies, this is maybe getting a little bit messy here. Let's go ahead and say y equals category dot objects dot all. So let's just get all the categories and store it in y. Okay. So we then need to now associate that with all the categories, our new product. So X dot category and then dot add. So we need to kind of unpack all of this and make it available. So let's do star and then Y. So let's go ahead and try that. So we're going to say Y equals category, all the categories. Now we're storing all the categories in Y. Now we're going to grab X. That was the previous product we just made. And now we're going to associate it to all of the categories, which is stored in Y. Let's give that a go. There we go. So if we go back into the category table, we can see now that we've got 2 categories. Sorry, if we go back into the category product link table, we can now see that this product we just created, product 6, is now associated to category 1 and category 2. So I do hope there was some value there. It's always good to get feedback from you. Any comments, and I can always make changes. Maybe I need to structure, maybe I need to slow down or speed up. Just let me know. It's always good to get feedback. So that was inserting data into a single table with a many-to-many relationship.